Hey everybody, it's Professor Morris and welcome to today's lecture. This is going to be on the sort of introductory process of marijuana legalization and the differences between marijuana legalization versus decriminalization, which is a question I get quite often. I also wanted to cover in today's pretty short lecture a discussion on the Fourth Amendment and the fact that these changing laws, whether the constitutional ballot initiative on marijuana legalization passes or fails in November when the general election takes place, there will still be issues with regards to the Fourth Amendment that I think are important for you to learn and understand as we move forward, because it doesn't just apply to marijuana possession, but also any interactions that we as civilians that are non-police officers have with law enforcement. And so understanding and knowing your Fourth Amendment rights are hugely important to that process. And so I'm going to kind of introduce a little bit of a primer today with regards to the Fourth Amendment and its protections against improper and illegal searches and seizures by the police. And as we continue on with this course, I'm going to continue to kind of touch on Fourth Amendment issues as we move forward. So we'll talk more about the Fourth Amendment as things go on. We'll get much more deep into the material. But with regards to the first couple of weeks of this class, we're going to kind of start things off slow. If you haven't noticed, I kind of like to do that with my classes. I don't want to throw everything at you at once and get everybody, worked up and concerned about how the course is going to go. If you've seen any of my other legal studies courses or any of my other courses at TSC, you know that I kind of try to make my courses as student-friendly as possible when it comes to performing well and also having a clear idea of what's expected of you moving forward in the course. In this class, I have gotten a couple of questions about the textbook, so real quick, I want to just touch on that. As I said in my welcome announcement on Canvas, that the textbook is certainly important and I think a valuable tool for you learning some of this material. However, if it is not a requirement of this course, and I do not necessarily assign a lot of reading assignments in this class, what I normally do is I kind of pick and choose from the material that we're covering, whether it's in the textbook or something that we're discussing sort of as part of the class, but beyond the confines of the textbook. And you'll see that usually in a written class lecture that I'll post to Canvas, as well as a video lecture like the one you're looking at now. So the textbook is an important part of the course, but it's not required, number one. And two, it is, I think you can certainly still get through the course without having that textbook. So keep that in mind as you move forward in the class. If you've gotten the textbook, great. If you haven't, those are the kind of the parameters that we're working with regard to that. So very quickly, I want to touch on two issues that are going to be kind of mainstays throughout this entire course. And that is the difference between marijuana legalization versus marijuana decriminalization, and the difference between the two and why those two things are different, and why it is important for you to understand the difference. So let's quickly look at what I'm talking about here when it comes to marijuana legalization. And these are the working definitions, by the way, for this course. These are not from the textbook. These are definitions that I crafted for this course myself. And so let's look at the definition of legalization. And again, you'll see these definitions on the midterm and final exams, I promise you. Marijuana legalization is the process of removing all legal prohibitions against marijuana possession and use, thereby making marijuana available to the adult general population for purchase and use at will by regulated retail dispensaries, similar to tobacco and alcohol. And that is primarily the way it's going to be treated when it comes to, interactions with police, interactions with any type of law enforcement, is the difference between legalization and decriminalization. Right now, Amendment 3 And you can see I've got a sort of quick write-up of some of the elements from the Florida Amendment 3 that are going to be on the ballot on November 5th here in Florida. And of course, those of you who will be doing early voting will have a chance to vote on not only this big initiative, but also there's another big constitutional initiative on the ballot with regards to a woman's right to an abortion. So two issues that a lot of the sort of younger Floridians care about. Now, it's not everybody, obviously, and of course, there are plenty of adults who care about these issues too. But through my 15 years of teaching at TSC, I think I've gotten more questions about marijuana legalization from students than just about any other subject matter. So I can tell that everybody's kind of fired up about this, either one way or the other. And again, how you feel about this is completely up to you. I'm not here to try and convince you to, support one thing versus another. These are your decisions. These are personal decisions. I'm just simply giving you the information from the law, as well as how law enforcement agencies are looking at this moving forward. So let's quickly look at decriminalization. This is, again, different than legalization. And decriminalization is the act of removing criminal sanctions against the act of possessing and or using marijuana, and replacing such prosecution or arrest with civil penalties for possessing small amounts, similar to how a minor traffic violation may be treated. However, decriminalization does not preclude potential police interventions, which can lead to the search and seizure of individuals and their property. And those two magic words, searches and seizure, are hugely important when it comes to how this may go in the future. Because when you hear those two words, search and seizure, you are immediately going to start thinking about the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which again, we will talk about briefly as we move on with this lecture. But I wanted to also quickly just do a quick overview of what you're going to be seeing in November with this ballot initiative. And again, it's Florida Amendment 3, the marijuana legalization initiative, which is on the ballot. All constitutional amendment ballot initiatives have to gain at least a 60% approval. It's a kind of an up or down vote that registered voters get to make on the ballot, and it'll be kind of a yes, I support this, or no, I don't support it. And if you get at least 60% of the voters to vote yes, then the initiative passes, and then the initiative goes to the Florida legislature to be codified into law. However, as the Florida legislature did with the medical marijuana initiative that passed back in, I think it was 2015, once the Florida legislature got a hold of it, they made a bunch of changes and did not make medical marijuana easy for many Floridians to get, especially those who really needed that medical treatment. So it's not just a done deal once the voting has occurred and the ballot initiative passes, because it can still go to the Florida legislature to be codified into law. This isn't a legal studies course necessarily. I know that I have a lot of students who are future law enforcement officers, or who are in law enforcement training at the moment. When it comes to the difference between a constitutional amendment at the federal level versus a constitutional amendment at the state level, which is what we're talking about here with regards to marijuana legalization in Florida, there are some important aspects that you need to look at when you are when you're considering whether or not this will be something that you'll have to worry about moving forward with regards to whether it's going to pass or not at the 60% threshold. And then once it does pass, or if it passes, then it goes to the Florida legislature to be put into law. And that's where the legislature can make all kinds of weird changes and can make things a little bit more difficult for folks if the legislature isn't real happy with how the amendment vote turned out. So we will continue talking about these issues and topics as we move forward into the next part of the course. But again, I want you focused right now simply on the difference between legalization versus decriminalization. I will have those definitions that I just went over up on Canvas along with your written lecture. I don't think we're going to have a lot of time to get into the Fourth Amendment into detail for today's lecture, but I promise you we will continue to go over this as we move forward, because I really want everybody in this course to be up to speed on the Fourth Amendment and how it applies to individuals being seized. In other words, you as a person not being free to go about your day, but instead a police officer telling you to stay where you are, and then conducting a search of you, either with a pat down or by searching your pockets. Sometimes they want to search your vehicle or your home, and there are certain thresholds with regards to search warrants, as well as what is known as, and these are the two magic words I want to go over today, probable cause, and the fact that you need a police officer or any agent of the state, that's any agent of a federal or state governmental entity. So it could be at the state level, the Tallahassee Police Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Department, and of course I'm in Tallahassee right now, so I'm referring to those agencies, but it could be any other local police department around the state. It could be the Florida Highway Patrol, again, at the state level. But then you move up to the federal level, we're talking about the FBI and the DEA, maybe even the ATF, if there are, if there are weapons involved, firearms involved. When an individual has any type of interaction with police, Fourth Amendment issues immediately kick in when it comes to what a police officer can do and not do, when it comes to the officer having the ability to lawfully stop or seize an individual and search their person, that's their pockets or anything attached to them, or searching a vehicle or any other type of enclosed area. The reason that's important is because, again, if an individual has an interaction with police and that officer violates the suspect's Fourth Amendment rights while conducting that search, based on what is known as the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine or the exclusionary rule, any evidence that is obtained during that improper search, that is where the individual's Fourth Amendment rights are violated by the police officer who's conducting the search. Any evidence that is collected during that improper or illegal search is inadmissible at court. And this is where you often will hear cases that go to trial that are high profile cases. There's lots of evidence, leading to the guilt of the suspect, but because that evidence was collected improperly in violation of the suspect's Fourth Amendment rights, none of that evidence can be admitted into court according to the judge, and that usually leads to a dismissal of the case, even though the person on trial could be guilty. There's absolutely no question with regards to their guilt. You could have DNA evidence, fingerprint evidence, all types of different types of evidence that lead that suspect to that particular crime and to that particular victim. But none of that evidence would be admissible in court because the police officers who were conducting the search did so illegally in violation of that individual's Fourth Amendment rights, leading again to what is known as fruit of the poisonous tree, something I'll explain in my next lecture. I think a fascinating doctrine, and what is referred to again as the exclusionary rule, which is that evidence that is collected improperly by the police then becomes inadmissible at trial, and without evidence to prove that the victim to prove that the suspect is guilty, you have no case, and therefore those cases then get dismissed, and the victims' families are usually very angry and distraught because it was the police who messed up by not honoring the suspect's Fourth Amendment rights when it comes to searches and seizures. What I will do is I'll post several videos in this week's lecture that will give you some better ideas on the Fourth Amendment, since I don't have a lot of time to go over that stuff today. But I'm also going to come back to this issue for my next lecture, and we will talk in more detail about the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, as well as the exclusionary rule, and how police have got to be super careful when they have any interactions with suspects and are conducting searches that may or may not lead to a potential criminal prosecution and arrest. So keep those things in mind as we move forward. Keep in mind those definitions as we move forward in the class. Those you will definitely see those definitions again as we move forward on the midterm exam and on the final. And again, I'll go into the Fourth Amendment a little more detail later on when we have a little more time. So until then, I hope everybody is having a great week, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care.